Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of The Good, Bad, and Ugly of Business. I'm your host, Catryn Becker. In this show, we love to introduce you to all sorts of different people because we want to learn what they've learned. Because while a smart person can learn from their mistakes, a genius learns from the mistakes of others. So by bringing together all of these successful people, you can learn what they've learned so that you can either avoid the mistakes completely or that you can fail faster through them. Our guest today has had an incredible career and she is a deep well of wisdom. So I'm very excited to have this conversation with her. She is an author, she is an entrepreneur, she is an executive coach, and she is the founder of a shoe company called Passeri, where you really want to step into your power and come walk with them. Luciana Passeri, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Catryn.
Absolutely. I mean, there is so many different directions we can go and things we can talk about. We were having an immense conversation before we started recording, and I had to say, stop. We gotta get this on film, as they say, whatever the digital equivalent is. But we were talking about your shoe company, and I was mentioning that I had recently heard an interview with Joe Foster, who is the founder of Reebok. And he was mentioning that most people wanting to start a shoe company right now probably shouldn't, unless they have a really great visible way to differentiate themselves, similar to how Reebok had the pump back in the 90s. And I have got your website of shoes up on the side, and I am just drooling over them because they are so gorgeous and eye-catching and different, and they really beg the question of like, what is that? What are you wearing? Like they tell a story all in and of themselves. So you were just starting to tell me about kind of how the beautiful storytelling that is involved in these shoes. So I would like to start there if that's good with you. And then we'll kind of go back to some of the other things that you do.
Perfect. So our products we call wearable art. So I love, and I really am grateful for how you describe them. So we are part of a slow fashion movement. That means everything is handmade. We use the highest quality leather inside and out of all of our shoes and our bags. And then all of our textiles that you see in our shoes and other products, those are all hand woven from alpaca textiles. And alpaca wool. And what's so beautiful about this fusion in this company is that our textiles and our shoes tell the story of the people who make them. So for example, our textiles in some of our shoes tell the story of the Quechua people who live in the mountains, in the Andes Mountains in Peru. It tells their story of living amongst the stars in the mountains, their endurance, their hospitality, the joy that they intend to bring to the world through their art. But what I have found in working with Indigenous artisans for the last 20 years, I started very small. And P.S., who knew this would be a shoe company later? So I will get to that in a second. But basically what happened is with these Quechua people and these designers, we are able to bring their art to market where typically Indigenous people don't have a capacity. I shouldn't say typically. Many Indigenous people, many artists around the world don't have the capacity to bring their products to market. So a lot of their stories, a lot of their history is being lost. In the mountains here in Peru, some families have generations of people coming below them, their children and grandchildren, who don't know how to weave or don't want to know because they see that their parents and grandparents haven't been able to make a living doing it. And we want to change all of that. We want to highlight the beautiful history and the beautiful culture of these artisans. So we have our cobblers I love saying that, cobblers.
I know, right? It's like exciting and it makes me hungry.
That's hilarious. That's so we have our cobblers in the factory who are master cobblers in making shoes, but then I take the telas, they call them, the textiles from the Quechua people, and we infuse them into our shoe designs. So the slow fashion is really, really important to us. And though, I have no intention of picking a fight with fast fashion, which is that world of I want it now. Companies can make 100,000 or more products a day of the same sort of thing. We are not that. We're not anti that, but we want to be an alternative to people who or an alternative for people to help them understand that when they buy slow fashion artisanal products, they are not only supporting artisans in developing their craft, people are getting fair, what we call thrivable wages. They are able to, take their kids on vacation if they want. They're able to, buy homes and just really thrive as a people. Where in fast fashion, many of the people actually producing the products that we then buy, they aren't making not only thrivable wages, but they're not making livable wages.
Sure. I mean, we hear
Right.
stories all the time about sweatshops and
Exactly.
no one wants to support that, but we don't think about that when we go to the store and our,
Right.
products are right there. It's so
Right.
easy to forget.
I know. I know, because people use the line, and I get it. I've been there. Well, I can't afford it. Those things are so expensive. One of our goals for the education arm of what we do is to help people understand there's always a cost, right? There's always a cost. If I buy a t-shirt for $4 or $10, there's still a cost. I might be getting it at a very inexpensive price, but there's somebody more than just one person along that train, that line, who made that shirt, who are giving more of themselves. And it could be giving of the planet too, because a lot of fast fashion doesn't put the planet, first,
Yeah.
uh, so to speak. So, our story, I think, is really beautiful. And our mission isn't just to sell shoes, but through our wearable art, we want to support people in stepping into their power. And like you mentioned, our slogans, right? Thank you for saying that. Step into
Of
your power
course.
and come walk with us. So our pillars, just really quick, and then I'll get to that other little story. Our pillars are be beauty, live compassionately, love everyone, create peace, and be kind. And we believe that because all of our materials are natural fibers, our artisans infuse those qualities into our shoes and our products. And then those qualities are passed on to our customers, our clients, who then can feel that beauty, love, compassion, ability to create peace and be kind. And so to
Yeah.
me, it's just,
Well,
it's
and
really
I
an
would
honor.
imagine that your products last so much longer than the things that are made so quickly. I mean, I feel like there's definitely an analogy between, like, yes, it's slow fashion, but it also lasts. Like the time component works both ways. Like it was made quickly, but it's gonna be gone quickly.
That's right. That's right. And when it is gone, it's going to do far less damage to the environment because, for example, the natural textiles will just, go back to the earth at some point quite naturally. So,
Sure.
so we're proud of that. But
And it's a
Mhm.
great way to be more connected. I mean, there's a lot of people that talk about how we've become so disconnected from
Mhm.
our environment and really put a lot of that on shoes, that we're no longer touching the earth anymore, that there's something that's separating us, and it's usually rubber, or it's some sort of synthetic material, or it's something that's preventing us from connecting. And so
Mhm.
what I immediately saw when looking at your shoes is I feel like I'd be so much more grounded and
Mhm.
connected in shoes like these than I would in, my flip-flops.
We have heard that a lot from our customers. I'm proud to say we have a robust following, even though we're quite young, and people just tell us beautiful stories of deals that they've made while wearing these shoes. One man shared with us in August, he came in and we were selling our shoes actually at the Minnesota State Fair. So I'm from Minnesota, right? So
Mm,
that fair just means so much to us, and it was an honor to get into it. And it's the only retail event that we do in this way. So it was super fun. This was our second year this last August, and he came in and he went straight back to some of our sneakers that have these lovely ola, which means wave in Spanish, pattern on them. And as he was running back to them, he said, I love these shoes. You have no idea. He said, I have had more compliments on these shoes than all my other shoes that I've ever worn in my entire life. And then another person came in like 2 hours, something like that later. And he said that he was on stage with our sneakers on, and he was, because they can, be dressed up or down. They're super cool looking. And he
yeah.
was giving a presentation, and after the presentation, there were questions and whatever from the audience or, whoever was attending this meeting. And so he's, going through all the questions. And one woman raised her hand and she said, okay, your talk was great. I don't have any questions about that. Where did you get your shoes?
Oh my gosh, I love it.
I know. That was
But
amazing.
but think of the magic in that. I mean, how often do we go around and we don't say nice things to one another? I mean, people rarely even smile at each other. And so to feel moved enough to be like, I love your shoes, like, oh my gosh, like to be able to verbalize that kind of compliment to one another, like that's gotta
Mhm.
do so much like inside.
Mhm. It does. It does. It does. And we're just so excited about it. We're so excited to bring this brand to the world. And now we are in the world. We're in, Europe, handful of countries in Europe, of course, the United States. There are people in Canada who wear them. So it's just been an honor. And we're at the point now, where capacity building, you've talked a lot with different entrepreneurs. And it's a thing. It's capacity building is no joke. So we are in this beautiful phase right now. But I wanted to share with you, I kind of started to, and then I stopped in our initial couple minutes together because I wanted to share with you a little bit about the history and what brought me to this, if that would be okay.
Please. I mean, now I feel like we're all completely hooked and want to know everything that you have to say. So yes.
Um, so in 2002, actually, I started traveling to Guatemala, and I would take groups actually of students. That's a whole nother life, another story of college students, faculty members, community members on these journeys to developing countries to help them learn about the culture. Well, part of the learning about the culture was to learn about the artisans. And I had been a designer, have been my entire life from, little, when I was really little, doing nature crafts, making jewelry, designing coaching programs, clothes, furniture, even entire homes. Just always just loved that. But I never had a clue. Honestly, I had no clue I could ever make a living as a designer. So what happened was in 2002, as I'm working now with these Indigenous artisans, and I'm supporting just these small, like a little family, right, who makes jewelry. I would support them in building their little jewelry business, however they wanted. And then I would buy their jewelry whenever I would go. I would bring them home. And then my husband and I, every December, we would turn our entire house into a store and we would sell their products. And
Oh,
what you were
wow.
talking about earlier was so cool to me when you were talking about connection, because in our early years, what I would do is I would always put a picture of the artisan with the product that they made. So it wasn't just this, oh, I'm buying this as a holiday gift for a friend. I am supporting this woman and her family, or this man and his family, in creating their crafts through buying this product. And people loved it. People just loved it and were so supportive. So I had started a nonprofit foundation called the La Paz International Foundation. Okay, so all of that was good and great. Little did I know, though, that these years of working with Indigenous artisans that expanded, by the way, to like Thailand, Tanzania, Indonesia, other parts of Central and South America. Little did I know those experiences were going to bring me to this opportunity to build Passeri. And I wanted to really share that because for me, before I started this company, I didn't appreciate the history and the experiences that I brought to the moment that I decided to start Passeri, or I should say Passeri decided to start and told me to. That's way more true. So because a lot of people just, I don't think we understand that we are totally capable of designing the life of our dreams, and not only designing the life of our dreams, but living it after we design it, right?
Yeah.
It's totally possible. And we were talking right before we started. I'm kind of going on and on here.
Yeah, no, it's great.
So
I do have other questions, but I want you to finish your thought.
Okay, so I was just going to finish this thought about the jungle, because I started to share with you that I had lived in the jungle for 30 days in the Amazon in Peru. And while I was living there, I mean, we're talking, no running water. I lived under a mosquito net, anacondas 12 feet, in the swamp for me, all of that kind of thing. Well, day 27, before I was getting ready to leave, I was almost killed by a coral snake. I went to put my foot down. The coral snake was there. I could feel kind of the energy. I jumped to the side, called for the Shipibo people who are my hosts on this island. And they came, and unfortunately in their culture, they kill the snake because, they kill their children and it's just part of their process, which however I think about that doesn't matter because I do have my thoughts. But that snake kept coming to me really powerfully, like in my dream space and during the day. And it was kind of this ugly power energy. And I got so tired of it. I finally said to the snake, stop. You are not welcome in my space until you transmute your power into beauty. And I said, look to your skin, be the beauty you are. And then at that moment, the snake energy, or whatever you want to call it, just was like, and it was gone. Well, 3 days later, I leave the jungle. My husband, who's not a jungle guy, meets me in another city in Peru. We walk into this store, and there's an entire wall small wall, but wall of shoes, and they're all in the colors of the coral snake.
Oh, wow.
I looked at it. I turned to my husband and I said, this is it. 3 days later, we started a test market. I worked with that cobbler who now he is the master cobbler running my factory. I mean, just really remarkable synchro destiny. I could not say no to it, of course.
Right. To have that thing keep coming up. And it's almost like you were talking to yourself a little bit about transform that power into beauty.
Of course. And
oh, man, that's powerful.
Right. And the cool thing is the slogans for the company, I wrote in the jungle before ever knowing I would start a shoe company.
Yeah. Well, okay. There's a whole lot of aspects of what you just said that I think are something really interesting to touch on. And I think the first one is the concept of a whole nother life. I feel like we get so caught into our routines and it's hard to break out of those cycles that we've created for ourselves to do something completely new. But I kind of like that evolution. I mean, I wasn't always doing this, right? I was an engineer for 20 years and, I did coaching, like all the things. And sometimes people are like, oh, you're moving around too much. And it's like, no, baby, I'm evolving. It's more in that aspect. And so I think, knowing that you already were having these other experiences and very open to that sort of evolution, so many people get stuck and caught in not knowing the how not
Oof.
knowing what are the next steps they're supposed to be taking, that they lose sight of the vision because they're looking down at their feet. They're not looking ahead at the goal.
Uh-huh.
To tie it into shoes, right? Let's bring it back, keep the analogies
Right,
rolling.
right. Right. It's true, though, that fear, and P.S., nobody knows what they're doing. So I just want to throw that out there. And it seems like people do, because when we see these huge brands like Reebok or others, and they're so successful, they started somewhere. I mean, we know the stories of Apple Computer and, Disney, some of these other
Sure.
huge, household names. Um, so in my experience, I get it. I totally get what you're saying. I was walking, this was about 2 years after starting test marketing the company, and we're getting ready to launch within a half a year. And I'm walking down the streets of Cusco, and I would have these paralyzing, like, oh my gosh, you don't know what you're doing. You have no idea what you're doing. And by the way, I didn't speak Spanish, right?
Mm,
So here I am in a country, building a company, building a factory. I don't know Spanish. I have never built a shoe company. I have no manufacturing company. I have no idea what I'm doing. So this would come to me and it would stop me in my tracks. Well, one day I was walking, and the same thing, this story, and similar to the snake's energy, this story kept coming to me. You have no idea what you're doing. And I know that story. It was from childhood. It was from other narratives. If it gets hard, you don't know what you're doing. Be safe. Nobody will care. Everybody fails, all of that sort of thing. But in that moment, I stopped and I just did this. And I said, you know what? And I'm talking to myself here. But I said it out loud. I said, you know what? You don't know what you're doing, but you'll figure it out.
mm.
And that was totally transformative. And from that moment on, the mantra, absolutely, nope, don't know, we'll figure it out. And I use that all the time in the company, because like you just said about evolving, who says we have to know what we're going to be doing in 6 months or a year? I
Yeah.
mean, hello, but we can figure it out when we follow a path that's authentic to our own natural gifts and talents as we evolve. So,
Absolutely. And I think people get hung up with, having a 5-year plan, a 10-year plan, but the plan piece is where it gets sideways. Like, have a 10-year vision, of your life and what the qualities are, and don't worry about the other pieces of it. So
mhm.
the other piece that I wanted to talk about, and you've mentioned this several times, and it's something that's very pervasive in our culture, and it's the idea of the starving artist as a
Mhm.
stereotype, as this archetype in our culture of that if you're going to be an artist, it's going to be hard, you're going to be poor,
Mhm.
and that's just your lot in life. And
Mhm.
I love that you're flipping that and going, who says?
Mhm.
Who says
Mhm.
they can be these artists and have this incredible ability to express and emote while still having a thrivable wage? So I
That's right.
love that you're doing there, and I'd love for you to talk a little bit more kind of about that concept.
Yeah. Well, I think it's, one of my goals with this company is to help educate people. Um, Amazon, I shop on Amazon, not gonna lie, of course. You can
We're
buy
all human.
right, right. And Amazon is this incredible force. So I get it. And at the same time, what many people have come to want is something fast. If I can't get it sometimes in the same day, but for sure 2 day, I pay for Prime after all, right? I
Yeah.
want it in 2 days. And then I want to be able to return it for free with no consequence if I don't like it, if there's something wrong. And so that's fast fashion at its highest moment, right? It's we buy things quickly. We don't know who's made them. We don't care who's made them. We're just looking at our wallet. I want something new fast. And if I don't like it, goodbye. And so the story that we want to share with people is a story about choice. It's a story um, about when we support artists, we are supporting entire cultures in staying alive, right? Art is how people communicate emotions and values and parts of a culture that can't be spoken in the same way. You know, we've learned that from the Ojibwe people in the United States and from many other indigenous tribes in the United States. We understand that their stories are embedded in their artifacts, in their arts. And so when people, you know, see products, even if it's really beautiful products like our handmade shoes with these beautiful textiles, many people in my experience want it for free, or if not free, you know, oh, I could spend $50 on this. Well, that doesn't even get these made, not even close, you know, in our experience. And so this idea of wanting something for free or wanting something less, and I can tell you in Peru, where the company is, there are many artisans who sell these beautiful scarves, right? And they're hand woven. Some are of natural wool, others not, but they're hand woven. And people want them, and they'll barter with people and want them for next to nothing. And so often these artisans, you know, they'll sell them for next to nothing because next to nothing is better than nothing. And it's such an unfair way to envision labor in the world. I mean, none of us in the Western world would tolerate that in our own professions or in our own businesses.
Right.
And so the hope is to bring a broader understanding to the world, not just about our shoes, but about products in general, and really honoring artisans, because you're right, so many people don't get to live their lives as the designers there are. I never thought I would be able to make a living as a designer. Now, I'm not an artisan in the sense of our weavers or our cobblers. I'm a designer, but I just never thought that. I always did kind of other stuff to be stable. And I think that's the story of a lot of artists, not just in the United States, but in the world.
Worldwide, absolutely. So I got one last question that I want to ask, and that's more in the like supply chain and logistics and even company culture. You know, you're managing, and I assume you speak Spanish now.
Más o menos.
But you know, how are you managing a company, you know, based in Peru and getting things across? Like that's had to been a huge learning curve to overcome. So how do you manage that? How do you maintain that? How do you get these relationships with these different weavers and set all that up? I realize that is a huge question that I just asked. So feel free to take whatever piece of it you would like to answer.
Okay. Well, there's two parts of it. There's the local and the international. The local is the 2.5 years that I test marketed. That's when I sourced these 4 families of weavers who have become the master weavers who make all of the textiles for Passeri products. So it was all about relationship building and then making sure they understood the importance of always having the natural wool, the natural alpaca in their weavings. And there were some hard moments there because it's cheaper to throw in, you know, a couple threads that maybe aren't alpaca. But through that 2.5 years, and building relationships with them, we now have this really beautiful relationship where they know they are honored for their craft. And by the way, I do not ask the artisans to weave particular patterns. They weave their story. If I told them what to weave, it would be my story. And that's important to us as a company. The cobblers, similarly, right? I worked with the cobblers, the master cobbler, amazing man named Julio. And we've, of course, become great friends over the years. But in working with him and his expertise to build a team of cobblers over the years that just are so interested in bringing their craft and being proud of their craft and bringing that to the world. So locally, it was about 2.5 years in fine-tuning these processes and then sourcing the highest quality leather and some of our other materials. Globally, however, that's a whole nother beast. It is really tremendously overwhelming at times. I remember that line. I don't know, but I'll figure it out. I just got back from the Milan Shoe Show, which was a really beautiful experience. And even though I'm Italian and I'm now learning Italian, I didn't know Italian. And I would have people come into my booth, and we had these beautiful people make orders of our shoes. And I felt like an idiot because I did not know their language. And so I don't think I have to know every language on the planet, but I realized, and I learned a tremendous amount, but in capacity building, I also learned about my own need to develop certain skills quickly, very quickly. So I've been doing an hour and a half or 2 hours of language learning with Italian right now.
Yeah.
We're in the Italian market. In addition to that, so language is a huge thing, but in addition to that, the logistics of shipping, shoe sizing, oh my heavens, 2 years, the bane of my existence to try to get shoe sizing right. Why is there not a standard shoe size in the world? Why? I don't know.
That is a very good point.
It's crazy. It's crazy making. But there's so many other things about, building a factory. Like I said, I've never built a factory before. And so having to figure out capacity building in, using money as it comes in appropriately to build people and relationships, go to shoe shows, sell on our retail website, but then, also needing to buy machines and expand the factory now that we have this lovely attention, which I'm so grateful for. And so capacity building, we are taking one step at a time, no question. But as I think I may have shared with you earlier, it's no joke. Every company has to do it. Every person who runs a company can figure it out. And it could be really bumpy along the way. I'm hoping more of our speed bumps are in the back right now, but we're always learning. Like I said, with language, we're always learning. We are now in Europe in 5 different countries, which is great. We have European distributors now in place. So that's been a huge help. But it's things like, social media. Everybody knows how important social media is to a growing company. Ours is pretty much non-existent, right? Because it's been me building this company. And of course, my husband has supported me, but there's only so much capacity to an individual too. So now we're looking, of course, at expanding and being able to hire somebody to help support social media. But there's all these components that everybody knows has to be done at the same time. And each of them takes money, resources, time, blah, 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 blah.
I mean, so prioritization is a huge skill.
It is. And I'm still learning it. Well, it's actually not completely true. Our artisans and our customers are a priority. And so outside of that, yeah.
Yeah. But how do you set up your day to make your priorities work? It's a never ending thing, but I think it's absolutely been fantastic talking with you. I love the story. I love the shoes. I mean, it is phenomenal, and you obviously will figure it out.
We both will. Yeah. Our own paths, right?
Yes, we all will. Cause we can all figure it out.
Yeah.
We can do hard things. I know we can all think of examples of when we've done hard things. And so I don't know why when we come up the next hard thing, we're like, it's too hard.
Beautiful. Yes.
Well, please, I know you just mentioned that your social media is burgeoning. It's in the beginning phases, but how is the best way for people to contact you, learn more about you? You've got your book, you've got the shoes. How should someone reach out to you?
Well, thank you. So Passeri.today is our website, and that's Passeri.today. And there you can actually find out everything about our mission, vision, our artisans. We have videos of our artisans weaving. There's also part of my story in a short blog there. So that's one way. Our social media is Passeri Footwear, so at Passeri Footwear. We're expanding and growing that. I also have a personal coaching website, support website, that is just Luciana Passeri, at no, lucianapasseri.today. Wow. But the book, thank you so much for mentioning that. The book is called Gods in a Box on My Dresser, an inquiry into the human capacity to thrive. And I really, my goal is for my healing, my healed traumatic memories and stories of not being able to thrive can now be in support of others. And I'm really hopeful of that, and so many other things. But that can be found on Amazon, hardcover, softcover, and then the audiobook is coming soon. So,
Oh, fantastic. I feel like we could have a whole nother episode just going into the book uh, and talking all about that. But this was fantastic, Luciana. Thank you so much for being on here.
I am really grateful. Thank you.
And to the listeners, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate each and every one of you. If you enjoyed this episode, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe so that you can continue to learn all the different things that you didn't know before. And if there's something that you're curious about, whether it's a profession, an industry, or a person, please reach out. We'd love to try to get them on the show. Until next time, everyone, have a great day.